At a lab in downtown Toronto, researchers are hard at work investigating the genetic puzzle of a deadly childhood cancer with the goal of identifying new potential treatments for the disease. The study is one of 52 new research projects announced by the Canadian Cancer Society. Neuroblastoma is a nervous system cancer that strikes infants and causes tumors in the spinal cord, abdomen, chest, and adrenal glands. It's one of the most common childhood cancers and is also one of the most frequent causes of childhood cancer death. Dr. Meredith Irwin, a researcher and clinician at the Hospital for Sick Children, explains.
So neuroblastoma cancer cells have certain genes and proteins that keep them alive in the body, and we're very interested in understanding more about those genes and proteins so that we can find drugs that outsmart those pathways and could help us kill the cells in the body. So over the last few years in our Canadian Cancer Society grants, we've been looking at a class of drugs that are normally used to treat arthritis and have found that these drugs can actually kill the neuroblastoma cells by outsmarting one of those pathways.
With the funding supplied by this grant, the goal for Dr. Irwin and her team is to develop new treatments to target the most resistant forms of the disease. When neuroblastoma spreads, the chance of survival, even with very aggressive treatment, is only 40%.
In order to study what's going on in the cells, one of the ways you would do that is you actually would grow the cells, often in a dish, and then you take those cells and you prepare them in a way that you can either get the genes from the cells or the DNA, or you can get the proteins from the cells. And then we actually run a bunch of experiments where we try to see the identity of those various genes and proteins.
In her dual role as a scientist working in the lab and a clinician caring for these young patients and their families, Dr. Irwin brings a unique perspective to the work.
Like most physicians who do research and take care of patients, it's really been the patients I've taken care of over the years, and the fact that they've succumbed to their disease that has made me want to find better answers, better therapies. And there's another aspect of neuroblastoma that I've always found particularly fascinating, and that is the same disease sometimes in two patients can behave so differently, so that one patient can have very significant disease that's spread throughout their body and do very well, whereas another patient, despite all the therapies we give them over many years, will succumb to their disease.
The Canadian Cancer Society's funding of Dr. Irwin's grant is imperative to the research that may lead to better treatments for children with neuroblastoma and give hope to them and their families.
Having had my own experience with cancer certainly has given me a different perspective, because I too now have had to go through the literature, I've had to look on the web to see what the right sorts of treatment are for my cancer, and I think it has also given me the perspective on my own work that it's so important that we really understand how a cancer cell works for every particular type of cancer, because we're only going to come up with better ways of treating, better ways of curing if we understand a cancer at the very basic level of how the cell stays alive in the body. The Canadian Cancer Society raises an amazing amount of money for the cancer research that myself and many of my colleagues do. And what I think is so remarkable about the work that they do is it's able to fund research on so many levels, including the important research that we do, trying to understand the genes and pathways responsible for allowing cancer cells to live. And this is how we are going to come up with new therapies to target these cells in the body. And I think it's really important that we thank the donors, the fundraisers, everyone who helps Canadian Cancer Society raise the funds they do for cancer research.